Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome back. We are going to be discussing technologies related to our telehealth certificate. I again am Richard Jane.
And my name is Andy Saptono.
And today's lecture, we are going to be talking about, for our learning objectives, will include explain two telehealth approaches, identify two commonly used technologies, and describe the telehealth security and privacy. So we thought we would just start kicking off with a question for Dr. Saptono here. So I have seen lots of emerging technologies at home and evaluation tools that are currently being used. What technologies do you see that would be applicable for the wheel mobility and seating industry, either technologies that are available today, or maybe even thinking about future technologies?
All right, thank you so much, Rich, for that question. Let's start with this. Before we go into that questions, let's build the understanding about the fundamentals first. In telehealth, we can typically separate things into two types of interaction. One is what we usually call the real-time or the synchronous interaction. That's the interactive connections. When I'm talking with Rich here, this is what we call usually real-time. What you're looking at is actually the second part, which is the asynchronous, the store and forward. All of this has been recorded, and then it's forwarded to you for you to watch. So just to give sort of an example of how this applied to a telehealth interaction as well. So the real time is a two-way transmission of clinical information, can involve video, audio, multimedia, and a lot of interactions. And because of that, the technology and the connection requirements are often higher. This is just a slide that shows an illustration of how this data are going through through the internet, right? Imagine that if I'm on the right side and Rich on the left side, data goes straight to that with the assistance of equipment somewhere on the floor. And the advantage of the synchronous telehealth is because it's synchronous, multiple specialty can enter at the same time. I can have my suppliers, providers, clinicians, physicians coming together and assess a person at the same time. Because it's a real time, there is a collaborations, discussion that can happen. It can be very interactive, and if you recall that one of the challenges is depersonalization, a synchronous telehealth can help overcome that. The disadvantage, scheduling. Everybody have their own time, and we have to match the schedule together to ensure that everybody can join. And the equipment are relatively higher in terms of cost. The second part is about the store and forward. Store and forward is a interaction where we acquire information, store it, and then forward it to whoever is using it. The data can be such as, as we can see in these pictures here, it can be something that we take a picture of from sensors or from an interaction from a game that we capture and then forward to clinicians to review. In terms of the illustration of how data is being transmitted, it would be similar to this diagram. The data will first go into the server somewhere in the cloud and then being pushed out of the server to the other side. The advantage of this approach is that there is no scheduling. I don't have to make sure that Rich is available right now if I want to do a store and forward. It is relatively lower cost, and we can use low-tech technology. It does not mean that it's an old technology or not, but it's just that it's usually lower cost in terms of technology. The disadvantage is, of course, we will have a delay in getting response. Even if you text somebody and then that person's response right away, it does not mean that it is asynchronous. It just so happens that, let's say, Rich is available on that time and he can reply right away. But in many situations, that text would be responded later on. And this is one of the factors that will create that sense of depersonalization. So now, answering the initial questions, so what are the telerehabilitation technology? These are the three that I would like to highlight in this presentation. There are a lot of other technology, but these are the most commonly used technology in telerehabilitation right now. The first type of technology is what we usually call an audiovisual. This is the applications of the synchronous real-time interaction to deliver telerehabilitation. It's usually a replication of an in-person service. So these are some of the examples of the technology, as well as the kind of interaction that we experience. We sometimes use Zoom, we sometimes use FaceTime, we sometimes use a lot of other technology. Every providers have their own technology. So you probably are already very familiar with this, but that's the first type of technology that we usually have in our rehab. We have mobile health and wearables. Now in the rehab environment, wearables is not only something that you wear on your body. So yes, it includes things like Apple Watch, things like Fitbit, but because we're also talking about assistive technology as part of a person, anything that can be attached to assistive technology, let's say we're talking about wheeled mobility and seating over here. If we monitor the wheeled mobility and seating using sensors, using technology like the smart drive, that can be also considered as wearables. And there are many other technology for mHealth, sensors, and in fact, in the University of Pittsburgh, we start to investigate chips that can be printed on the human skin. Crazy, I know, but that's the advancement of the technology right now. And then we have apps. Now, thousands and thousands of apps are available in the store. Many can be used for rehab. And most of these apps are store and forward, but there are also apps that allows real-time interaction as well. Right? And it can be used for diagnosis, treatment, follow-up, and any other situation. Next technology, virtual reality. Probably Rich wants to say something here.
Yeah, so virtual reality obviously is looking from a gaming industry perspective, but not only from the gaming industry perspective, we've seen real world applications for individuals with disabilities, whether that's looking at exposure therapy, post-traumatic stress disorder, pain management, phantom limb pain from prosthetics and orthotics, cognitive assessments, social cognitive training. There are specific systems that allow for individuals who are retraining or learning actually how to drive a specific mobility device to be able to put them into a virtual reality setting to test the actual environment of where they will be driving to and from. So it's more of a safe place that you can actually be part of your prescriptive patterns if that's something that you will be looking forward to as well.
Yeah. So simulation in a safe environment.
Absolutely.
Then we also use smart home and Internet of Things devices, things that allows us to connect at home, Alexa, Google Home. Those kind of things are also being used a lot in telerehabilitation. We can monitor our loved ones. We can give reminders of what a person needs to do or how to do things to assist in the cognitive process. We can detect whether the persons might have incidents or maybe they fall and they need help. Those smart home and Internet of Things technology allows us to do that as well.
And I think one key point related to this type of devices itself is that looking at it from the accessibility standpoint as well. So a lot of these are commercial off-the-shelf products, but there may be settings inside that you can be looking at from an accessibility standpoint that, having specific clinicians and healthcare professionals evaluate that technology to benefit from that perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. So that is all that we want to highlight for this topic. Our next topic is going to be the roadmap for the future. What are we going to do for the future of the telerehabilitations, especially for wheeled mobility and seating? Thank you very much, and looking forward to join everyone in our next topic.
Thank you again.